A red guard walks into a bar and asks, "Where can I learn to kill dragons?" The bartender says, "Night school." Sorry about the joke. That one was worse than usual. We'll get into the build so we can get this video over with. Hopefully it doesn't drag on all night. Alright, what's up One Bar Bros? This time around we are playing as a Dragonknight, going for a heavy attack build, as we've done in the past few videos. Don't worry, I'll do something else again other than heavy attack builds, but I've been having a lot of fun messing around with this setup and trying out different characters and whatnot. So if you don't play as a sorcerer like every other DPS and wanted to get in on the heavy attack action, I hope you like fire because there's going to be a lot of it today.
Cool. Fire, 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 fire.
First and foremost, I'm playing as a red guard here, but you could also go as a dark elf if you'd like. A Khajiit would work. You could play as a Nord, an orc, or as an imperial. It doesn't really matter too awful much, so don't overthink it if you can help it. But these races would all work just fine, and the best of the bunch would probably be orc and dark elf. We'll be placing all of our attribute points into stamina, and then taking the Thief Mundus Stone. You can use magicka as usual if you'd like to. I just wanted to switch things up a little bit and kind of cosplay as a stam DK with a lightning staff for some lulz. And of course, more stamina always helps when you're sprinting through dungeons like a Chinese bot while your level 16 party members try to talk to NPCs for the quest. The build would be identical aside from sticking your attribute points into magicka instead and then using different glyphs on your gear, so I'll remind you of those changes when we get there. For your food, go with whatever you'd like depending on your resource of choice. I'm using Bewitched Sugar Skulls, but you could use Lava Foot Soup if you're doing stamina. Witch Mother could work for magicka. Just pick your favorite dish, it doesn't really matter too much. For our two gear sets, we'll be running Sergeant's Mail as usual, the heavy set from Wayrest Sewers base game dungeon. You can pick this one up as a random drop from bosses and chests in both iterations of the dungeon. We want this on our chest, a necklace and a ring, and a lightning staff. Our second set is going to be Stormmaster from the Tempest Island base game dungeon. This one comes in medium and we'll be wearing it on our shoulders, our hands, our legs, our belt, and our feet. And then our monster piece, as always, is going to be the light Slimecraw for a helmet, which you can grab from Wayrest Sewers on veteran mode. And all of our armor should be divines with either max stamina or max magicka glyphs depending on your base stat. Our staff is going to be precise with a flame damage glyph. Our jewelry is going to be bloodthirsty, and you can use either spell damage or weapon damage enchantments depending on your setup. And of course, don't forget about your bloodthirsty Oakensoul ring. Moving over into champion points, in the crafting section you can just use whatever you want. I like to use Gifted Rider, Steed's Blessing, Warmount, and Rationer. In the warfare section we'll be using Weapons Expert, Fighting Finesse, Deadly Aim, and Thaumaturge. If you're parsing on a dummy, you'll want to swap out Fighting Finesse with Backstabber, and if you need some extra heals you can swap in Reaving Blows. Over in the fitness category we'll be using Boundless Vitality, Fortified, Rejuvenation, and Celerity. You can always swap out Celerity with something else if you don't want that extra speed boost, but I just can't say no. For some of our passive skills, you'll want to be sure to get everything from Ardent Flame, Draconic Power, and Earthen Heart. You'll also want everything in the Destruction Staff skill line, your racial passives, anything you need from Alliance War, crafting, and the guilds, especially Fighter's Guild if you'll be parsing on a dummy. And since we're running a 5-1-1 gear setup, be sure to get your Undaunted passives and all of the armor passives. Moving right on to our skills, we're going to be using our Stinky Noxious Breath to apply Major Breach and do some poison damage over time to a cone of enemies in front of us. We'll also be using Burning Embers, which does some damage over time and also gives us back some heals. Here in the middle of our bar, we'll take a Deep Breath and slot Deep Breath. This is a really cool skill that deals some suck damage.
Suck.
Heals us, and then throws out some more fire. Next up, we'll be using Eruption for some passive flame damage and a reduction in our enemy's movement speed. And then Flames of Oblivion will be our last skill, shooting even more fireballs around the screen for us. Our ultimate is going to be Standard of Might, so we can buff ourselves, debuff our enemies, and throw down a nice synergy to do even more damage. This one tends to work out best in boss fights since it lasts for 20 seconds, so feel free to use Dragon Leap in its place if you'd prefer a cheaper ultimate that you can use on groups of trash mobs. It's probably worth noting that as long as we have the Helping Hands passive unlocked in the Earthen Heart section, we can spam cast Eruption to regain stamina by paying magicka. This probably won't be needed, but in case you didn't know, now you do. Our rotation is going to be pretty simple. Run up on these hoes and blast them with that stinky mouth. Pimp slap them with your fire sword to apply some damage over time and begin a heal. Throw down your ash cloud, shoot out some fireballs, and then give everyone a good sucking with that deep, deep Dragonknight breath.
I'm gonna come.
All the while being sure to cast your ultimate when it becomes available, or you need some extra damage and debuffs. The reason we go in this order is just to cast everything from the longest active time down to the shortest, but I'm not your real dad, so you can just do whatever you want to do, and I won't tell your mom. And a quick note on parsing. In addition to changing over Fighting Finesse to Backstabber in the Champion Points section, you'll want to make some changes to your skills as well. I was able to get 90k DPS on a trial dummy by changing the morph on Noxious Breath over to Engulfing Flames, changing Burning Embers over to Venomous Claw, swapping out Deep Breath with Barbed Trap, and leaving everything else as is. I'm not sure if there's a better setup than that, but I spent more time than I would have liked trying out about a dozen different setups. And as I like to always mention realistic capabilities, you should be able to finish pretty much any group or solo content in the game with this build, perhaps aside from some of the very, very sweaty veteran content that I doubt people are looking for fun one-bar builds on YouTube to complete. I felt the need to mention that for the salty one-bar haters out there, so there you go.
Some people are dumb. Yeah, really.
But anyways, at the end of the day, other classes perform better than Dragonknight with this type of heavy attack setup, but that doesn't mean that it won't work, so if you think it seems cool, then give it a try and go get him, Slugger. As always, here's a little footage of some in-game action so you can get a peek at what this setup looks like in play. I'll include a sped up parse and then some regular content after that. Thanks for watching and sticking it out to the end. Be sure to like this video and sub to the channel if you found it useful at all. Until next time.
welcome for you.